Good evening, everyone. I'm Rose Colasina with Indivisible, Illinois. I welcome you this evening, along with my organizing partners, Northwest Suburban OFA and Ballot Z and the team.
First of all, we'll start with you, Curtis. Thank you for joining us. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running?
Absolutely, Joyce. Thank you very much for having me, everyone. So I haven't publicly announced it, but I've also been endorsed by Jesse White. And a little bit about me, thank you. A little bit about me is I actually grew up here in District 211, where I actually met my wife and my best friend in 7th grade at Frost Junior High. We all had homeroom together at Frost. And so my mother moved us here from a really dark place in the city where poverty was all around us and we were part of it. And part of the reason she moved us here was to have a better opportunity for herself and for us. I went on and went to Schaumburg High School, played a variety of sports there, where my wife and I started dating. And then I moved because we were actually homeless for a little while. And through that move, I moved in with my best friend, Maurice, and I went to Conant. And so from there, and I haven't told a lot of people that side of me, so I'm sure this is new for a lot of you. And so I moved and graduated from Conant in '91. And at Conant, I excelled in a lot of different sports. And I never had a father growing up, so I really didn't trust a lot of the male figures that I was around because I didn't have a dad growing up. I had my mom. And so as I progressed and graduated through high school, I started working right away because she couldn't afford to send me away to college. I had an opportunity to go to several schools, and my plan was to walk on and be a star football player. However, we all have to pivot and have different forks in the road. And so I decided to go a different direction and started my career. So very early after starting my career and having kids, both of my kids ended up going through the district, and both of them graduated and played sports and ultimately graduating college. Both of them were one's currently working on his master's degree while finishing up his last year of college football. And through that, I had an opportunity to join the Community Engagement Committee back in 2016. And I'm kind of fast forwarding some of the volunteer work I've done, from doing financial literacy classes with the NW Compass up in Palatine. I did some work for. I actually did some work for the YWCA over in Elgin for immigrants, teaching them financial literacy, how to buy their first home, how to open up and start a business. And so while working on a Community Engagement Committee back in 2016, I thought we made some progress, but not enough. And then I had the opportunity to meet Tim for the first time at an event at Hoffman High School, protest, I should say, not necessarily an event. And I saw that young man out there, and more importantly, all the students just overwhelmed me. And when I showed up, I said, I got to do something. I brought pizza for everyone. I brought water, ice, and I didn't know at what capacity I was going to help, but I knew I was going to help. And so I brought food and ice and water and just handed out. Anyone that's here, this is for you. And so then I ran into Anna again, who I worked with at the 2016 Community Engagement Committee. And she said, hey, why don't you run for D211? I said, well, I think my mother wants to do that, but after seeing all these folks out there and spreading a positive message, I said, I can't no longer just be a talker, and I got to start becoming a doer. And so then I got to meet Donna, I got to meet Ed Young and Steve, and then Joyce, and it just became a perfect family for me to go ahead and join. And so that's what brings me here today. And so some of my focal points is the acronym FIGHT, and I'm fighting for the students and I'm fighting for the teachers and faculty. And basically that's for fairness, inspiration, guidance, high school, and together. And so that's what brings me here. And I appreciate you guys having me tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. That was a really great introduction. I've been very impressed by all your mentoring and your volunteer work. How will that community involvement help you on the D211 Board of Education?
Well, I think a combination with the community involvement in my finance background, working for a bank since 1997, I think it's going to help me in a lot of ways. One, my mindset is to put the students first in their education. They need to have a very good and inspirational mindset when they leave high school, and impression as well. And same way with the educators. I think the educators always get left out when we talk about education of students. They chose this line of work for a reason, and it's because they are all volunteers in their own rightful way. A lot of these educators decide that they don't want to have kids because that classroom of 30 or 40 are their students. I had that when I went to high school. They were my fathers and my mothers outside, because it really does take a community. So I think with being on that community engagement committee really just gave me a taste for what it would be like being on a school board. And then my financial background will really help me keep us in a safe place where we don't have to go out and borrow money in the future.
Great. I think Gretchen has a question also.
Hello, Gretchen.
Do you have any specific thoughts on how you want to improve the equity gap in our district?
Yeah, I think number one is that I'm running for the board. And so by running for the board, we're creating equity on the board. Currently, with the exception of Ed, there's not a lot of diversity on the board. And so one of the things we have to do is we have to get like-minded people on the board. This way, the students will see, well, maybe the board's not against me. And then it will allow me to go into each school individually and implement policies and fixes to address any of the equity issues that we have today.
That's awesome. Thank you.